Hello, it's me, Seb, with a tower of library books this time for you. Am I going to be able to read all these before I have to return them because they get reserved or because I run out of renewals? No, I won't. But I'm going to try. There was a time when I would have felt guilty about this kind of thing, like keeping all these books on my shelves that I'm probably not necessarily going to be able to read before I have to return them because like somebody else could have seen them in the library or whatever. But yeah, like shortly after I got here, a Dublin librarian said to me, like we'd rather they be on your shelves than on ours. And I thought like, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. I like that. I like having them, near to hand, and like kind of they give me a lot of pleasure. Whereas if they were just like kind of like on a dusty library shelf, then maybe nobody would ever even look at them. So in no particular order, well, kind of a particular order, because the top one is on the top because I've been reading it recently, and that's The Fish Can Sing by Halldór Laxness, an Icelandic novel about a boy. It's kind of like a Bildungsroman, like coming of age thing. I think at the beginning of the 20th century, so Iceland is still like kind of developing, but it's like kind of rapidly developing, and it's got an interesting kind of relationship with Scandinavia and with Europe, and it's got a sort of mystical feel to it, and the writing is so like good. It's like kind of like shockingly, like, I don't know, masterful. At least that's how I'm finding it. Although at the same time, like, it's not a story where plot is really much of a thing. Like every chapter seems like almost like it's just another day, and so that can make it a bit of a challenge sometimes. But yeah, really loving this so far. Then I picked up Territory of Light by Yuko Tsushima. I saw a few booktubers talk about this one, and I'm kind of interested because she's the daughter of Osamu Dazai, and who wrote No Longer Human, which is a book I didn't really like that much, but which is a really big Japanese classic. And yeah, this famous Japanese author also had a famous Japanese author daughter. So I was kind of, I wonder what her writing is like. See if I get on better with her stuff than I did with her dad's. Then this one, like, it's called Lady Joker. I just saw it in my library, but it was in the sort of new books section, like, so it must have come out pretty recently. Well, I don't know if it came out it got to my library pretty recently anyways. And I read the synopsis, and the synopsis just really like sucked me in. It's about these, it says, like, just from reading it, it's about five men who are like kind of, they meet at a racetrack, and they all like kind of represent different parts of Japanese society which are kind of struggling or ostracized for one reason or another, and they decide to kidnap, who is it they kidnap? They kidnap, let's see, intent on revenge against a society that values corporate behemoths more than human life. The five conspirators decide to carry out a heist, kidnap the CEO of Japan's largest beer conglomerate, and extract blood money from the company's corrupt financiers. It's like a crime heists novel, which is not normally my thing, but because of the story, I'm really drawn to it, and I'm willing to give anything a try. And also, like, it's got like this massive cast of characters, dramatis personae, which goes on for pages. The last Japanese thriller, though, I read that was like big and had one of these things, like the cast of characters at the beginning, I was really disappointed by. So I'm kind of a bit scared about this one, but I had to see. I just had to see. Then there's Devil in a Coma, a memoir by Mark Lanigan. I don't normally read memoirs or nonfiction at all usually, but Mark Lanigan is a musician who's close to my heart. I grew up listening to his music, especially when I was like a teenager. I remember his voice, his husky voice, had a big influence on me. And yeah, he died this year. I was really sad about that when I found out, like, a few months afterwards. And it was like, I know that he got COVID, and then he, like, it was kind of touch and go. I think, yeah, he was in a coma, and then he recovered, survived, wrote this book, and then this year he died. So I don't know if it was because of post-COVID complications or what. I don't know if it was announced or not, but yeah, I was pretty gutted. And yeah, like, I kind of felt I wanted to read this last thing that he made, like this last artistic thing that he made. Like, I don't know if it's like closure or respect or just interest as well, something like mixed around there. But I'm looking forward to that. But like, obviously in a kind of a different vibe from a lot of these other books. This is the promised Neverland Volume 3. So this is a manga I've been meaning to read for a while. I reserved it from the library, and because I kind of figured the first volume would be super popular and take ages to get here, I reserved the first 3 volumes. And then, of course, the one that actually arrived finally was volume number 3, rather than 2 or 1. So what I did was I went to the fan translations online and I read the first 2 volumes, and then no, I'm all caught up now. I'm ready. I'm ready for number 3. I haven't started it yet, but I'm excited to. I should say what it's about. It's about a bunch of it's about an orphanage, and everything's kind of like in this little enclosed, idyllic, Victorian looking style, although the children there are all like kind of multi-ethnic. And then like occasionally a child gets taken away to the outside world, and then they find out that it's for very sinister purposes, and they decide they all have to escape from the orphanage. And it's like kind of like a friendship but like schemy kind of novel. Like they're all coming up with plans to try and outwit the adults, and it's yeah, it's really fun. But yeah, I'm very excited about that one. Then this was something that, again, like this is a booktube thing. I saw lots of people talk about this and I was very interested about it. Everything Under by Daisy Johnson. Saw it in the library, picked it up, and I did the sort of the first sentence test. I do this usually with books, like if I'm kind of not exactly sure about them but kind of really intrigued. So I just like open, it says like 1, Beyond the Black Stump. Then it says, the places we are born come back. They disguise themselves as migraines, stomach aches, insomnia. They are the way we sometimes wake falling, fumbling for the bedside lamp, certain everything we've built has gone in the night. We become strangers to the places we are born. They would not recognize us, but we will always recognize them. They are marrow to us. They are bred into us. If we were turned inside out, there would be maps cut into the wrong side of our skin, just so we could find our way back. Except, cut wrong side into my skin are not canals and train tracks and a boat, but always you. it's just quite a good, and then the cottage, and I don't know. It's a brilliant opener. I'm completely hooked. I'm really excited to read that one at some point. Another booktubey one, Human Acts, Hang Kang. I read The Vegetarian and had really a weird time with it. I had a really bad time reading that book, but I kind of like respected it a lot, and I don't know if I like it or dislike it, or I don't know how I feel about The Vegetarian. It really messed me up. But Human Acts sounds like one that I would like a lot more based on what I've heard other people say on their booktube channels. And yeah, I just saw it on the shelf and thought I'll give it a try at some point. This one is a more me book, Patient X, The Case Book of Ryunosuke Akutagawa. David Peace, who I saw his name just a second ago, he gives like one of the book cover quotes on Lady Joker, is a British writer who I've meant to read for a while. I first kind of became kind of not aware of him, but like kind of the first time I consumed some of his imagination, I guess, was when I saw this TV series Red Riding, which was a TV adaptation of his of a quartet of books he wrote, the Red Riding Quartet, which is like a kind of a crime police gritty drama thing. And I don't know when it was, like maybe 2000s, maybe like late 2000s or something, but yeah, I saw it on TV and it was like probably the grittiest, hard-hittingest TV I'd ever seen. So it left a bit of an impression on me. Sean Bean was in it. I remember it was really good. But yeah, that wasn't enough for me to like actually want to go and find the books or anything like that. It's the topic of this book is author who's one of my favorite writers, Akutagawa Ryunosuke. And it sounds like a kind of a weird book. It sounds like it's not like a biography and it's not like a fiction, but it's kind of like a mix of those things. Like he's writing about the writer, and I think he's also writing kind of a story about, oh God, what is this book anyways? Let's see. Inspired by Akutagawa's stories, essays, and letters, David Peace has fashioned an extraordinary novel of tales. Intense, passionate, haunting paean to one writer, it also thrillingly explores the act of writing itself and the role of the artist both in public and private life in times which darkly mirror our own. So, you know, it sounds really good. And it's a book about one of my favorite writers, told in a kind of a weird novelistic way. So that sounds, you know, how could I say no when I saw it on the shelf? It's also not a book that I see people talk about at all. So like seeing it just there on the shelf, like kind of calling to me, I had to pick it up. Absorbed by Kylie Whitehead. I forget who it was. This was definitely someone on BookTube talked about this, and I thought I just have to try it. It's a horror novel about a girlfriend who's really insecure about her relationship with her boyfriend, and she thinks he's gonna leave her, and so she absorbs him into her body, and that's like the kind of the premise. And you can see I've started this one. I'm still kind of near the beginning. but the absorption has happened, and yeah, it's fun. It's not like beautifully written. It's like written in a kind of sometimes kind of trashy way, I think, but like that's kind of part of the fun, I guess. And like there's some kind of really like, I don't know, like kind of resonant bits where like we understand her insecurities in interesting ways because they're about the person that is inside of her body. Like there's one bit where she's feeling like he's like sort of her ideal, but because he's inside her body, those feelings are sort of like going around in a circular thing and like being redirected to her inner world. And then so that's kind of like affirming, because you know what I mean. So like she's starting to change because she has him inside of her now. So it's like no pun intended. One of the first things I see also when I open it is full of existential dread and sardonic humor. I enjoyed it immensely, from Charlene Teo, author of Ponty. And Ponty is one that we have right here, which I talked about a lot already on this channel, that I really love this book. And this is another one I took out of the library just so that I could make videos holding the book on my booktube channel. I just love this cover. I love everything about this book. I love holding it. I love the weight of it in my hands. I love like the big font, the big text, and all the spaces in between the lines. And this is one of the books that like I would actually like to buy at some point in the future. I have this ambition, like in the future at some point I'll have like my own bookshelf, and every book on that shelf will say something about like me personally. You know what I mean? This is a really narcissistic thing, I guess. But I also think it's kind of like make the bookshelf you want to see in the world kind of thing, right? I love the experience of going to someone's place and seeing their books and making superficial judgments about their character based on what I see there. And I want people to do that about me. But yeah, that's like a kind of a future down the line kind of dream. But Ponty would be one of those books for sure. Next I have Hare Lindsay Bird by Hare Lindsay Bird. This is I think it was her debut book of poetry, and I'm halfway through in this one as well. They're really kind of like, what's the word, like ironic and acerbic, and like using like lots of kind of pop culture and millennial angst, but also like, and they're full of similes, but like done really well. And yeah, I'm loving it so far. Like a couple of them I read before and loved them, and that's why I picked up this collection. Like this one, Monica, which is about Monica from Friends, and Planet of the Apes, which is a love poem, I guess, but like a kind of a weird one. But also I love Planet of the Apes, like the movie, and that kind of makes the poem even better. Yeah, anyway. Next we have this. I just saw it in the library. I was drawn to it because it looks kind of like cool and gothic, and it's called Thornhill. It has a favorable quote on the back by Philip Pullman, who I respect and admire a lot. It's got this, you can see this little person in the window there, which is pretty cool. And what's interesting about this, apart from that it just looks really nice and gothic, is that it's really cinematic. Like once you get into it, like you have text, and you have like these black pages, and then you have just loads of illustrations, like a graphic novel. And it like often like it zooms into things, and like changes from day to night, and I don't know, it's like seems like a really visual storytelling thing, and the art is really nice. And there is like kind of like I think diary entries as well, so it just looks like a really interesting reading experience that I haven't ever had before. So looking forward to that one too. And then we have, this was in my last library haul video, however long ago that was. I'm pretty sure I had a different version of The Silent Cry by Kanziburoy, which just means that like I didn't get around to it, and so I had to return it, and then I got it out again, and I got a different covered version of it now. But I really I'm determined to read this book before the year is out, let's say. Definitely before the year is out. Another Nobel Prize winner. I don't know if I mentioned that Haldor Laxness, I don't know why I can't say his name. The Fish Can Sing guy is also a Nobel Prize person. I don't know what this book is about. I just know that I absolutely have to read it because Mysterious Baker once told me to do so. So I will read it. And I just want to read, this next one I'm so excited for. This is the one, it just came out. When did it come out? It just says 2022. I think this just came out a couple months ago. It's called Bitter Orange Tree by Joka Al-Harthi, whose book Celestial Bodies won the International Booker Prize a few years ago, and I really loved it. It was one of the first books I read, I think, when I started YouTube, or at least it was around that time when I made this channel. Anyway, it was a while ago, but like after I read that, I was like, I can't wait for more of her stuff to be translated. And I looked online to see if there was any other English translations of her work, and there was. I think there's like the first chapter of this or a section of this book had been translated by Marilyn Booth and was available online, and I read it and I loved it. It was about an Omani international student in Scotland somewhere. I forget, it was Edinburgh or something like that. And she was just talking about like her interactions with the students and like her memories of her family life. And I don't really remember that much about it, except I really liked it and I loved the vibe, and I loved her Joe Harthy's previous book. So I'm just really super excited for this one. Then I have Irish Myths and Legends, Gods and Fighting Men, written by Lady Augusta Gregory. This is an old book which has recently got a new beautiful like edition that's come out with these little like shiny golden things, which I don't know if you can see properly because of the glare here, but it is very very pretty and light, and a hardback, and you can tell that this is also one of the new ones. Like it feels super new. I saw it in bookshops. It was like in loads and loads of Irish bookshops, and I thought I want that. But yeah, like I'm not so familiar with a lot of the Irish mythic kind of, I don't know what you call it. I almost said universe, but that's like Marvel talking through me. Like the interconnected myths of Ireland. I don't really know that much about them. But like I know bits and bobs, you know, from like when I was a kid. So there's this one called the Salmon of Knowledge. And I thought, like, is that in here? So when I was in the bookshop, I looked and I kind of like scanned, and finally I found the salmon, and I'm like, okay, if it's got the salmon in it, then there's at least one thing that I kind of know I'm gonna really enjoy when I get to it. It's got like that kind of like comforting, familiar feeling, while at the same time being like exciting because it's a whole book of myths that I don't know anything about. And also this person, Lady Augusta Gregory, seems like she was quite a cool character back in the day. So like, yeah, it's just like I said, like a pretty old book. Also in Irish bookshops I saw not this one, but like half of this one. This is called A Treasury of Irish Myth, Legend and Folklore, and this is like two books squished together. This is Fairy and Folk Tales of the Irish Peasantry, which is a book edited by W.B. Yeats. Also Cuchulainn of Muirthemne, Irish word, again by Lady Gregory Augusta, right? Lady Augusta Gregory. It just says Lady Gregory here. Anyway, in the bookshop I saw the Yeats one, and I thought like, oh, I don't really like Yeats as a poet. I feel like that's probably blasphemy to say in this house. Sorry, ancestors. But like, yeah, I don't really like Yeats as a poet from what I've read of him so much. And he's like, you know, like one of the big Irish poets, maybe the big Irish poet. But I do like fairy tales and stuff like that, and I guess I'd heard that he did a lot of like compiling them in a sort of nationalist way of like folklore revival stuff, but I didn't really know anything about that, and I thought maybe I'll like his fairy tale work more. So I picked up the book, and then not realizing that he hadn't actually written this stuff in this one, he just compiled it. And I flipped to a chapter which was called The Demon Cat, about this woman, and there's a cat and it comes in the night and it keeps eating the fish, and so she's like, right, I'm gonna get that cat, and she's waiting with a stick, but it's a demon cat, so you know, like things don't go as planned. But yeah, like I really loved it. I wanted to read it again, and I also saw that it was written by Oscar Wilde's mum, so that's also just like really cool, I think. So I thought, yeah, I want to read that again, and I got this out of the library, and I've got lots of folk tales and fairy tales at my fingertips now, which is very exciting. Also in a bookshop I saw this one called Father and Son by Edmund Goss, or was it Edward? I think Edmund Goss, and I'll put a picture of it here. But it had a beautiful cover, like marine stuff, which just looked kind of amazing and intriguing to me. And when I read the premise of it, like after having been like hooked by the cover, I was even more hooked, because it's about this guy. I think it's like meant to be an autobiographical kind of fictionalized autobiography. But it's about this guy, and his dad is like really religious. I don't know if he's a priest or whatever, but he's also like really into marine biology. I think he's like an amateur marine biologist. And then Darwin comes along, because this is like 1860s or whatever. Yeah, Darwin comes along and messes up his whole worldview. And so like the dad's kind of struggling with Darwinism, because he's, you know, like rejects it because of his religion, but he's also like really into marine biology. And then the son is like kind of representing the next generation, and like obviously like the conflict between two generations. And like I really am interested in evolution, just like as a as a, you know, the concept as a scientific thing, but also like even more than like the evolution, like the sciencey stuff itself, I'm more interested in like how it affects society and stuff like that, and like what a like a mind explosion thing it would have been in the 1800s when people started like kind of figuring it out, and how it like kind of, you know, like permeated popular culture. I don't know, I'd find that whole idea really fascinating. So this book seems like to be like just perfect for me, to be honest. And yeah, they did have it in the library, but it had a really like ugly cover, and this is the cover I want. So I think I'm actually going to buy this book because like I really want to read it with this cover. So yeah, at some point I gotta get this. I gotta get my hands on this book somehow. And then finally, I want to talk about another book I saw in the bookshop, which I couldn't get in my library because it wasn't even in my library. I was very sad about this. Called The Last Days of the Dinosaurs. I forget who wrote it, but it's like a science. I was going to say science fiction. It's a science book, but like popular science book, I guess, because it's talking about the end of the Cretaceous. Is that right? Yeah, Cretaceous period, when, you know, the comet comes and the climate change and all the dinosaurs die. But it's written in a sort of fictionally kind of way. Like it seems to like kind of immersively put you there rather than talk about it in terms of like dry facts and stuff like that. So that sounds really interesting for me because I'm also a big fan of dinosaurs, as you can tell from Stravinsky over here. I wanted to do the one-line test at the beginning, but what really caught my attention wasn't the opening line of the book, but was the dedication, which was something like, "For Margarita, no time would have been enough." Or something like that. And I was like really sad, but also like this, the fact that it talked about time in that way, and it's a, you know, a book which is talking about, you know, geological time and the past, and like the ending of a whole like a whole, I'm not civilization, but like a whole huge amount of life on Earth disappearing from Earth. And I don't know, it's just like that dedication in this book with this topic about, you know, like extinction and stuff, it just like it hit something in me and made me go like, I want to read it right now. But I looked in my library and they didn't have that, but they did have this instead, this DVD, Dinosaurs: The Final Day with David Attenborough. I've never heard of this, but like people, like a lot of people who are my age and grew up in the UK, like watched Walking with Dinosaurs, the documentary, and like were really amazed by it, as was I. So like a dinosaur documentary with David Attenborough, just I gotta watch it. And so I didn't get the dinosaur book, but I got this instead, so that's kind of cool. I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't seen a DVD in ages. So just like for the nostalgia factor, that's going to be nice. Anyway, there's my tower of books and one DVD. So I'm already reading some of them, as you know, so like that's going to be what I get to first. But let me know what you would like me to get to earlier than others. Like, what book do you not want me to have to return to the library when I don't have time to get through all of these? Do let me know. Oh, and there's like one over here. I got this for my birthday. I got a birthday present book from my housemate, which is really nice. Bullet Train by Kotaro Isaka, who is my housemate's favorite writer, and which is a movie which came out recently here in Dublin, and which I saw and which I thought was really silly, but like I kind of like, you know, like kind of fun, enjoyable popcorn action silly thing. But like it was also I admired the concept. A bunch of assassins on a Shinkansen bullet train, and they're like, it's kind of like a plotty thing, like you're trying to find out who's trying to kill who, what's going on, who's setting up who, and they're moving up and down the train. It made me wonder like how would this work as a book, and like kind of what would, you know, like what's missing from the like what did they change in the film, and you know, I don't know, it was just one of those things that I was very curious about. So I'm looking forward to reading that one. The crowning piece on my tower. Let me know which of these I should read, or which of them piques your interest, or anything else about what you've been reading lately, and like so on and so forth. Let's chat about it down in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye bye.